Welcome to the Grandpa Channel, where what a lifetime reveals doesn't stay quiet. I'm Steve Harris. My grandkids call me Rivers. This is the place where we sit down with grandparents and ask the question, what did life teach you the hard way? The answers are rarely tidy. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're tender. Almost always they're earned. Whether you're trying to hold on to a voice, understand where you came from, or just miss your old man, pull up a chair. Because what a lifetime reveals can steady another. Welcome to the Grandpa Channel. I'm Steve Harris. I'm also known as Rivers by my grandchildren. It's my first name, Steve, is boring, and actually I love the name Rivers, and I have a lot of friends who call me Rivers. So with that as an introduction, we come to our guest, Tanya Martin. Tanya is a wonderful friend of our family for over 30, actually almost 34 years exactly. And we're so glad to have her. I find Tanya to be a wise, wonderful, and beautiful woman who speaks truths. And I love to have discussions with her. And she's blessed us with your insights and with your wisdom over the years. I'm setting you up for failure, basically.
I know. I don't know that that's true, but I'll take it. But I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
But we just wanted to have a chat, and we've been talking, and we've wanted to have her as a guest on our show for a long time. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I grew up out at Dugway, which is a military base, and then we moved into Tooele. So I'm kind of...
It's a booming metropolis, right?
Both of them, yes. And so I'm from a family of 5 children. I'm the oldest of 5. I am married and have 4 children myself, and I have 10 grandchildren.
Wow.
So I have worked most of my married life, I guess, outside of the home. And I just retired about a year and a half ago. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's great. So, what have you learned? Talk about what you've told me about the connections between grandmas and grandpas.
Oh, I just think that grandmas and grandpas are connected. We do things maybe in a little different way, but we do things together. And with both of us together, we become more. And so I think it's fun to think about how grandpas and grandmas, what they've learned through their lives and what they can share with their children or their grandchildren.
What are some interesting things that have happened to you in your life, Tanya, have helped you learn and to become the grandma that you are and the matriarch that you are?
These are some things that kind of shaped who I am. So I have one thing that I got from my dad years ago that I've used in my life many times. It was, I was telling my dad that I was going to be divorced. I was going through a divorce. And we were talking a little bit about it. And he said, this is the thing you need to remember. You made the best decision at the time with what you knew. And he said, I would not have advised you any differently. So just remember that. And I have. So through the years, there have been things that I've done that didn't always turn out the way I wanted them to. And I just would remember, you made the best decision at the time with what you knew. And it's okay, just move forward. So,
great advice.
Yeah. I got my logical side from my dad. And my mother was very creative. So I have the creativity. I love to sew. I've just learned how to watercolor. Well, I'm not that great, but it's a new skill. So, but I remember my mother telling me I was in elementary school, and she said to me one day, don't ever back anyone into a corner. Always give them a way to get out. And I think it's kind of like our ability to give them grace, help them not ever feel like there's no way out. Just help them through whatever the situation is.
These are kids and grandkids you're talking about?
They're adults. I don't care whether you're in the business world. It doesn't matter. Don't ever back anyone into a corner. Always give them a way to get out. Give them grace and help them through it.
I love the idea of grace. And I think that in a family, grace is like this WD-40. It loosens up the mechanisms of family life. And I think that we should give each other a lot more grace than
I
we
think
do.
so too.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned in my life is forgiveness is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
We will always be offended, we will be hurt, we give people trust and we don't get trust back, but it doesn't matter. Giving people forgiveness for whatever has happened, you may not trust them for a while, but giving them forgiveness is a choice. And it's a choice that I have found I always want to make. I have to get myself to a position, no matter where I'm at or what has happened, that I can forgive.
How do you apply that, the choice to forgive, with kids and with grandkids, just out of curiosity? I think it has great application, but how do you see it?
You mean when you're
disappointed or
in something?
Yeah, that's something that they've done.
For me, I remember I was young once. I remember I haven't always made the choices that I make today. And it's like, I think that the Lord meets us where we're at. And if whatever we know and whatever we understand, he'll talk to us that way. So I've learned I just love them and give them grace again.
Why is it so hard to forgive sometimes?
I think it's because we're hurt. I think it's because we want everything to be smooth. We want to be able to trust. We want to be able to. And so I think when I was going to say, I think when we're so self-focused, but if we are really self-focused, we want to forgive.
Yeah. It's in our best interest.
It's in our best interest. You feel better, and then you don't have that looming over you. You don't carry it with you. I want to get rid of that. So I think that's me.
I think virtually every family has situations where there's need for forgiveness, but either one or both parties doesn't want to take that first step or become vulnerable, and it really causes a problem. I speak from experience. I think everybody
does.
In their
Yeah,
family.
we've all had that.
Yeah, with sibling issues or kid issues or even grandkid issues, and I think that that's a wonderful lesson. You mentioned that you had some stories you'd like to share with us. And give us a little bit of background of these stories and then share away.
Sure. I think that things come into our lives to help prepare us for who we are becoming. So I have a few stories that I'll share. So when I lived out at Dugway, it was a military base, and the military people would come for about 2 years, and then they'd be transferred to another base. So I had to learn to make friends quickly because the friends that I made would be gone in 2 years. So out at Dugway, I learned every 2 years, or as people would come in, you learn to make friends quickly. Some of them are much closer, and it was hard. Then they would leave. So when we moved into Tooele, my parents decided when I was in the 9th grade, I was going into the 9th grade, that they were going to buy a house because they couldn't own a house out at Dugway. And so we moved into Tooele, and my dad commuted back and forth to work. Moving into high school when you are in the 9th grade, and all of these kids in this small town have gone to elementary school together, and then they went to junior high together.
Yeah.
And then here I am. I had to take that skill that I had learned and make friends quickly. And it worked. The people were very open and kind to me, which was nice. In fact, last week I put together a Zoom call of our friends. So we have a group of, I think there are 18 of us now that have joined this group, and we meet once a quarter, and we just talk and share and remember.
Oh, cool.
And so all of that friendship that I had from that time has stayed all of these years.
It's been a blessing, hasn't it?
Which is wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Here's another one. I hated conflict. I didn't love it. And I was put into a position at work that the man that was doing employee relations was an alcoholic, and he would sometimes be there and sometimes wouldn't. And I had just moved into human resources. And so when people had a problem, they would come to me because he wasn't there. So I had no background in how to resolve these issues, but my whole life, all day long, and we had 4,000 people. and there was a large manufacturing contingent that was there. So all day long, people were coming to me with problems to help them resolve. Managers, I'd have employees, I'd have all kinds of people come. And through that, I learned how to deal with conflict and how to resolve difficult situations. Not always everyone's loving, but it was okay. It didn't matter. So as I moved on through my career, I got to the point that as people would come in and say, I am upset about this, it was easy for me to deal with that. So I started my career as a secretary, moving into human resources and a few other places. And when I ended my career, I was the president of an internet company. And so all of those little things that happen along the way change things, I think. So they help prepare you for what lies ahead.
What are some little tricks that you learned to sort of tamp down initial conflict? Did you have any stock lines or?
No, I didn't, but I always ask questions. So tell me more. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what happened.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation is. And as they talk it through, it helps them.
Right.
And it helps you to see a little bit more. It helps you to understand the situation a little bit more. And you don't always have to make a decision immediately.
No.
You can say, okay, thank you. Let me look into this and I'll get back with you.
Did you ever have somebody come in and the problem was so sort of almost insolvable that you were just wondering, what do I do here? Did the answers come to you or directions or?
Yes, that happens sometimes. You may not be able to solve it, but you might be able to give advice. So I'll just tell you this. At some point in my life, I realized that partnering with the Lord, it made me more, and the outcome was always better than when I tried to do it.
So why don't we do it more often?
But that's right. So let me just tell you some examples of that.
Yeah.
I needed to help one of my managers learn how to counsel employees. He had never done that. It's kind of a conflict situation again. And we needed to get this employee to change because some of the things he was doing were not helping us or the company or him. And so that morning, I prayed and asked the Lord to help me be firm but kind. And so we met with the employee. I talked with him. I told him what he needed to do. I got feedback. He understood, and he left. So the manager and I were then talking about how it went. And he looked at me and he said, that was the most amazing thing. And I said, what? He said, you would tell him what he needed to do, and then you would smile.
Really?
And he said, you did that again and again and again. And I said, really? So it wasn't.
Are you conscious of that?
No. So it wasn't me. It was the Lord helping me to do what needed to be done that day. Here's another example. I was back in New York. I went to visit Adrian, but I visited my sister who was in New Jersey just before that. And on Friday, Adrian joined us and we went to a museum that had all these old farm implements. It was in Pennsylvania. And I was looking at one of the exhibits that they had, and I stepped back to look at it because it was right in front of me. And there was steps right there. I fell down 3 steps onto cement and I broke my wrist. This was Friday and I wasn't expected to leave until Sunday. So we went to the emergency room. They took an x-ray and it had all kinds of broken bones. It did not look good. So I called my doctor. We made an appointment with a surgeon for Monday. And then we went back and I was going to Adrian's house in New York that night. And I said, I could go home and be miserable, but I'm here. So I'm going to just see if I can figure this out, right? We'll just stay and be fine. So on Saturday, we were in one of the parks and my wrist was aching. And I said, Heavenly Father, I want to spend time with my daughter. Please help me. Please help me so this pain is not so bad. And I noticed that as I was walking, my arm, it's in a sling, my arm relaxed. And as my arm relaxed, the pain went away. And I said, well, that was interesting. So my daughter and I decided, and so this wasn't the first time this happened on that trip. So we decided to go out to eat. We were on a Vespa driving through New York City with a broken wrist, and the pain came back. And I said, relax your arm. And through all of this traffic in New York City, I relaxed my arm and the pain went away. Flying home, I was in the middle seat with two big men on either side of me. And I said, relax your arm, and the pain went away. So it's interesting how the Lord helps us in natural ways, but I'm always better with him on my side.
Have you shared that story with your kids and your grandkids?
That's a good question. Probably not.
It's a great story.
It's a great story. I remembered it while I was preparing for the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's a great story, and it teaches so many different, the applications of relax your arm. That's really good.
Yeah.
I think that grandkids, when they hear stories from grandmas and grandpas, when they see that, that you're not just blithely walking through the mean streets of New York City, but you had something serious that happened. And I just think that kids remember that.
Yeah.
And then they apply it to their own lives in situations that would make us proud that we shared the story in the first place. So I'm gently guiding you and telling you need to share.
I love that. I will. But I do have one that I shared with them on Sunday.
Yeah.
So they all came over for dinner on Sunday. And so I decided this year I want to learn a new skill every quarter. So my skill this quarter is working with sourdough.
Oh, wow.
So I'm fairly new at it. It's like 2 weeks, right? But I decided I was going to make a chocolate sourdough cake. So I read the recipe. I mixed up the little part the night before and let it sit on the counter the next morning. So Sunday morning, I mix up the cake. I put it in the oven and I go to look at it. It's halfway through baking. I go to look at it and it's spilling out all over onto the oven. And it's starting to smell burned in my house. So I quickly grabbed a cookie sheet and opened the oven and put it underneath to catch all the drippings. So it wouldn't have to be all over the oven. But it was only 15 minutes into baking, and you don't do that with cakes because they're and it fell. It stopped flowing over, but it fell. So I continued to bake it, and I bring it out, and I'm angry. I'm angry that this didn't work. The house smells like burn now. And the thought comes to me, you wanted to learn sourdough. What did you learn? And I said, I figured it out.
What was the problem?
I had the water that I had put in the night before should have just been room temperature water, and I heated it up to 90 degrees, and it caused the sourdough to be more active. So when it got in the oven, it was more active and it went all over. So I don't activate that sourdough. But if the Lord hadn't helped me, I probably would have just walked around angry. But I'm learning. So I'm learning. And I shared that with the kids at the dinner table. And then we ate the cake.
So how did it taste?
It wasn't light, but it was a little bit more dense because it had fallen. But it was delicious.
Was it? Yeah.
Yes.
Very interesting.
And they all took a piece, every one of them.
What are some other quarterly skills the last little while that you've picked up? Sounds like this is part of your scheme for life.
This is my 2026.
Oh, is it?
I could probably, if I thought about it, I could probably tell you because I think we always need to be learning. We always need to challenge ourselves and see what we can do. Here's something that I learned in my life. By doing it wrong, you learn this. And that is, be careful what you say about people. Only say things about people that you would say in case they would overhear.
Oh, that's very
not that you'd say to their face, but in case they would overhear.
Yeah.
And I have found that it's so much wiser, and you choose your words better. You're more careful with what you're saying, and it helps you think more slowly about things. So here's an example. There was a lady that worked for me one time, and she is very heavy. She's just a very, very heavy set woman. My daughter Adrienne was working at the company at the time. It was part-time because she was going to school. And we'll say her name is Mary. One of the people that worked for me went up to Adrienne and said, what does your mother say about Mary? Adrian thought for a minute and she said, she says she wished she would have had children because she would have been a really great mother. And Adrian came home later and told me that story. She said, that's what you told us around the dinner table. So that's an example of just say what you think. You want to be you want to be kind, you want to be good. Anyway.
Oh, I love that story. I think we could all benefit from that.
From thinking.
Well, from thinking too that, if I say something, is it overheard? Does it pass down the road a little bit? We just need to be a little more kind. We need to be more careful and measured, I think, in our speech. I mean, that's something I've really got to watch. I can be salty and sort of try to be a little controversial, but I don't like that. I don't like that salty Steve at all. I just like rather just be kind and see what happens, what comes back and everything like that.
And I was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2024 through 2025. So that's overwhelming. That, my gosh, now what? Am I going to die? And they found that it had started to travel, so I had to do chemotherapy. One of the skills that I learned is don't look too far ahead. Just take whatever is the next thing that you have to do in that process of healing. Take that next thing and look forward to that and do that. And then you take the next thing. So for me, I had a portacath put in because I had to have chemotherapy. The next thing was I go for my first treatment. Then you go for treatments and your white blood count is too low and you can't have that treatment and you just want to get through it because you have 10 that you have to do. So I learned, don't get upset. There's nothing you can do about that. When there's nothing you can do about it, just, I had a boss one time that says, relax and enjoy it. So I said, okay, so it's okay, right? But I used that when I broke my wrist because it was such a long recovery for my wrist as well. And what was the next thing I had to do? You can use it for if you're going through a divorce, if you're going through any kind of trauma in your life. Don't eat the elephant all at once. Just take it a bite at a time and look at it and see what's next. Okay, I've done that.
What can I learn from this and move forward?
Yeah.
Wow. That's wonderful advice. When you think about your grandkids, Tanya, what life lessons do you feel like you need to teach them or that they need that maybe you haven't taught them yet? You're a wonderful mother and grandmother, but I mean, I fall short all the time. And there's the old line of someone came up to Winston Churchill and said, Lord so-and-so is a very humble man. To which Churchill said, well, he has much to be humble about. And that's how I feel as a husband and as a dad and as a grandfather. I just want to learn from people. I want to learn hopefully from their mistakes or their triumphs and then put it into place in my life. And I want to be able to share some of the things that I've learned in my life. I think I've been specifically gifted with these experiences. What kind of experiences do you think you've been gifted with?
Well, let me tell you how I implement that.
Okay.
I like one-on-one time with each grandchild because one-on-one time gives you time to get to know them a little bit better. It gives you that time that you can share. The other thing that it does is as they talk to you, you can help them connect the dots between something they've done and something that they may need to do in future in their life.
I love that idea of connecting the dots. As I grow older, oh so gracefully, I just see the hand of God in my life, and I want to let my kids know about and my grandkids know about that, so that maybe it doesn't make much of an impact when they're 12, but then when they're 28 and something kind of crazy's happened to them, they go, oh, wait a minute, Rivers had this happen, and they hopefully still have that life lesson in them.
So here's an example. The one example I've just shared is the one about the sourdough chocolate cake, right? And I told the children it was the Holy Ghost. I'd asked the Lord to help me learn this skill, and it was the Holy Ghost that reminded me. So I remember I had a granddaughter that had lost her keys. She was in high school and she couldn't drive her car home. She was afraid somebody had taken them, and she prayed that she could find them. So she's telling me the story. I knew about it because they sent me a text and said, pray that Drew can find her keys. And then it was the next day she found them. Somebody had moved them somewhere and keep them safe, but somehow she found them. I don't remember how it was. I said to her, your prayers were answered, right? So you have to connect that dot between the fact that you prayed and you asked to be able to find your keys. And I think it had a credit card with it or something. You prayed to have that happen, and it happened. So don't say, boy, was I lucky.
Yeah.
Which a lot of times we do.
What you should say maybe is, boy, am I lucky that I have a God that I worship that helps answer prayers. But you're right. We kind of go, we need to attribute the blessing with the source of the blessing.
And connect the dots. This is what you ask for, and you got it.
Yeah.
Write that in your journal.
No kidding.
So that you can remember.
Right.
So I think those things happen to us all the time.
I think they do too.
And we just have to connect the dots, and we have to help our children, our grandchildren connect the dots. So sometimes we have to be bold and say that was the Holy Ghost. Did you recognize that? At one point I was asking them, tell me an experience you've had with the Holy Ghost this week. And they would share with me.
Really?
Yes. You just want to help them connect with God.
Well, when they see you connected with God, that's a great example. But I think by telling these stories and sharing these stories, that really cements that, like, grandma is, man, she rocks, she talks with God on a regular basis, And I just think that, I want to be that kind of grandpa that, that I am dispensing, I'm having fun with them, but I'm dispensing stories that have kind of a wallop to them. I want to do that. I'm getting there. I need to improve.
Well, I don't think we can do it all the time. We have to just weave them in. If we weave them in, they'll get it.
Tanya, you've led this incredible life, and I'm sure you've had no embarrassing moments in your life. Tell us about maybe a couple of embarrassing moments that you've had and what lessons you've pulled from those.
I don't know whether there's much lessons in some of these, but so this was funny. I was holding a staff meeting. The area that I had my office space, they were cubicles. So my office space was fairly small. I had an extremely large desk. I don't know why I had such a big desk. So there wasn't a lot of room around the desk. And I remember I had to walk out of the staff meeting one time to get something. And I came back in. I tripped on a guy's foot. I twirled around, farted in his face, and landed in my chair. And then I went on with the meeting.
As if nothing happened.
As if nothing had happened.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I think sometimes you just don't need to acknowledge everything that your body does.
That's right. You try to exercise as much control as possible.
Yes. So that was one.
Did that remind you maybe of your fragility and your mortalness? Maybe, I don't know.
Of course, it all does. Okay, so here's another one.
Yeah.
So there was a period of time, and I think it was probably in the 70s, that we had, I think it was later than that, maybe in the 80s, whenever it was, we wore shoulder pads. Women wore shoulder pads because that was a style, and it was very chic to have shoulder pads in.
Yeah.
So I had these shoulder pads that went underneath my bra on the side, and I would wear them every day, and they were fine. And then one day I was holding a meeting with all of the people. This was a bigger staff that I had at this time, and it was like a staff meeting, and I was sharing with them the direction we needed to go and what we needed to do. And I looked down, one of the shoulder pads had made its way down. It was poking out of my sleeve on end.
There was an equipment malfunction.
It was an equipment malfunction, and I think I just acknowledged that my shoulder pad had fallen, and I went on with you just go on.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. Okay, I have one more. Okay, so I had I had an office that it had no windows in it. It had windows way up at the top. And I was going someplace after work, and I went out I needed to change from pants into a skirt. I said goodbye. There was one guy left in the office area. I said goodbye to him, and I went out, got my clothes, and I was going to change in the restroom. And I decided I didn't want to change in the restroom. I'll just go change in my office.
Nobody's there.
Nobody's there.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. So I went in my office, and I took off the pants I had on. Good news is I had on tights. Okay, we'll just say that. And as I'm pulling my skirt up, and it's up to about my knees, I hear a knock at the door, and the guy that's in the office thinks somebody has broken into my office, and he's pounding on the door, and he said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he opens the door as my skirt is at my knees, and I'm yelling at him, "No, no," because I know what's coming next before he opens the door. And I just pull up my skirt, and I said, "Sorry, But this guy leaves to go to another job, and as he's doing an exit interview with the HR guy, he tells him the story. The HR guy thinks it's hilarious. I'm like the vice president of manufacturing, right? He thinks it's hilarious. So we're having a total company meeting. The HR guy tells the story, and then he looks over at Adrian and said, "Did you know that?" in front of everybody.
Really?
And my daughter, Adrian, said, "I did. My mom came home and told us that at the dinner table that night." So I think it's important to always be open and honest and just laugh at yourself and laugh at the things that happen.
It's authenticity, isn't it?
It's all authenticity.
Yeah. There are a lot of funny things that happen.
A lot of funny things that happen that you don't expect.
Do you have anything else that's that you'd like to share on this podcast?
I have one final thing.
Yeah.
So we used to boat down at Lake Powell. And we were down at Waweep. Waweep has a great big bay area. We were going to go up the channel. And so this great big bay area. And in the distance, we see there's a tour boat on this side, and there's a houseboat on this side. But they're way far apart. You always want to kind of be careful of the wakes, because tour boats and houseboats both throw a big wake. So whenever you're around them, you're very careful. You know how to go through the wake, all of these things. So they're coming towards us in this great big open bay. And all of a sudden, we realize that the two wakes have collided right where our boat is. Our boat goes down, and the water comes up on either side of us, and then the boat comes back up. We all laugh nervously, and the boat goes down again with the water coming up on both sides, and then we come up, and we all laugh nervously. This happens about 4 or 5 times. Our friends that were behind us, the Thorums, were with us, and Sherm said, "You went out of sight. We couldn't see you when that happened." The only thing that kept our boat upright and kept us from not capsizing was my husband kept the boat going slow and steady.
Really?
And straight ahead, because by going slow and steady, you continue your momentum and you'll be okay. So I have taken that advice. That's kind of my mantra in life.
Slow and steady.
Go slow and steady. You're going to have things that happen. You're going to have wakes that crescendo right where you are. You're going to have things that just don't go well, even though you'd planned them well. But if you continue slow and steady to get through that crescendo, you will come out ahead.
That is a great lesson. It's a great lesson of life, and especially for those of us who are impatient. I mean, it's something you have to learn, and especially going through difficult times, being slow and steady, but to keep the momentum going forward. It's great. Tanya, thanks so much for coming on the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have, and look forward to more podcasts on the Grandpa Channel. That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. If something you heard made you laugh, pause, or see things a little differently, pass it along. Send it to someone who might need it. We're gathering what a lifetime reveals, the hard-earned perspectives, the second thoughts, the stories that carry a little weight and a little wink. Until next time, keep the perspective honest and the jokes just slightly inappropriate. I'm out of here.